2025. Which laptop is not muted? It's me. I can't tell a joke. No. Good. So, yeah. Welcome today here in the evening, somewhere around the world. Yeah, as always, these meetups are organized by .NET Devs.at. We are a non-profit organization all about spreading the knowledge of .NET technologies. You can find us on YouTube, on Twitch, hi stream, also on Blue Sky and LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you all for joining today. The room is full. There are some seats left in the first row as always. And yeah, also thank you for joining via stream. And also thank you for Rubicon for having us here today. And with that, Katharina, your place.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Katrina. I would like to welcome you on behalf of Rubicon. We are delighted to be hosting today's meetup with such an exciting topic. Thanks, Rainer. Rubicon, we develop a lot with .NET. I see some colleagues in the audience and also some former colleagues. It's nice to see you. After the talk, there will be snacks and drinks over there. So feel free to stay and network. And now I will hand over the microphone and wish you lots of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Quick, I'll make it quick that we get to the talk. Yeah, thanks all once again, Rubicon, also for additional sponsoring the meetup that we can have streaming equipment and that all, and also JetBrains for sponsoring us with a 12 months product license. We will raffle that. If you're regular, you know that we will raffle that one. How you can take part in the raffle? Simply enter hash JetBrains in the chat, and after the talk we will also, it's the easiest one also for the people here on person. Quickly join the stream on Twitch or YouTube, enter it in the chat, and so we can handle that. Some quick community news. We have a lot of events in the next months or next weeks. So first, on January 27, the F# meetup is alive again. They have their second meetup again after a long break about F# in FinTech. Insights from 5 years of real-world experience. Yeah, I know some ex-colleagues from there. Very interesting. Yeah, on January 24th, strong order is the Vienna DevOps meetup, talks about better ways to pipeline automation. Beginning of February 11th, our colleagues from Linz, the .NET Stammtisch Linz is also there. And yeah, purple on purple. Dev workflows on fire with .NET Aspire by Georg Müller. I need to change the font color. Yeah, so lots of other events in Vienna and in Austria. Our meetups on February 20th, we'll have the next .NET meetup. It's a tech talk, and talk will be observability next time. will be fun. I need heads. We are at Square with building event-driven microservices at scale with Azure Cosmos DB. Yeah, and with that, I'm done, and I will hand over to Rainer with AI Assistant System for .NET, current state and developments. Rainer?
Das ist genug Klick. Gern, ja, das kann.
So, if there are questions, raise your hand. We'll hand you a mic. Also, stream.
This time is not mine.
No, that's HDMI. I'm plugging. So, questions, raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone. Stream, please, in chat, and Stefan will be the message relay. And with that, Rainer, your stage.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Everything fine? Very nice. I'm super happy to be here to talk to you about a topic which is, I think, a pretty hot topic, AI coding assistance. Who is using any kind of AI for coding? Show of hands. Nearly everybody. Who's using GitHub Copilot? Okay, very nice. I would have to raise my hand for all of these questions because I have been using AI coding assistance for quite a while. It's the very early days of GitHub Copilot when we had the Open AI Codex model. Can you remember that? That was the old days. Nowadays, the AI assistants have come a pretty long way. Before I go right into the topic, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm a passionate programmer. My name is Rainer Stropek. I live in a small, beautiful town called Leonding near Linz. So I came from Upper Austria, and this is how I look like without the mask. Don't worry, I'm not sick. I'm just careful because of various reasons. In my spare time, I also code. I am the chairman of the Coder Dojo Linz, where I have been a mentor for 10 years now. Working with kids between 8 and 18 years, teaching them a little bit about coding. This is my professional life, Time Cockpit. This is our flagship product. This is where I teach. I love to work with young people, so I teach 2 mornings a week at the HTL Leonding, and this is where you can get in touch with me. Just look up my name on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way of hear something about me. You came here to hear something about AI assistance. Now, you know, I really, really like GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot is an amazing product. It works like a charm. I have been using it for quite a while. It's so enterprise ready. I have a lot of customers who love GitHub Copilot because for enterprises, for large customers, it's easy to buy, it's easy to roll out. You can pay the invoices via your Azure bill and things like that. It's really enterprise ready and it has great features. But things happened over the last, let's say, 1 or 1.5 years. If I would have been here 1 year ago, I would only have shown you GitHub Copilot. But nowadays, GitHub Copilot is the follower. GitHub Copilot is great for enterprises. It is a great product. But there are some smaller tools which know some tricks, which have learned some tricks that GitHub Copilot is only dreaming of. And even if you, after this talk, say, I would love to try these other tools, but I'm only allowed to use GitHub Copilot because it's enterprise ready and so on, don't worry. Competition is a great thing. You can take away 2 things from my talk. First, there are amazing competitors out there, and I will show you some live demos. We'll do a lot of live coding. But the second thing is GitHub Copilot moved. In the last months, a large number of new features came to GitHub Copilot, and guess what? These features came to GitHub Copilot because the competition had these features. So GitHub Copilot is innovating rapidly nowadays. I will show you some new features of GitHub Copilot, which came in the last few months. And in my personal opinion, maybe a little of the reason why the GitHub Copilot team is so innovative and now so fast is because of competition. Okay? So that's it. I would like to show you two competing programs, and I will also show you some new things which came in GitHub Copilot. The first tool, and this is the tool that I will show you most of because I'm most familiar with it, is Cursor. Any Cursor users here in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, only a few. You like it? It's amazing, isn't it? I love Cursor. Cursor is a fork of Visual Studio Code. That is a very interesting development in the world of code. Here, this is Visual Studio Code. We can go into the extensions, you all know that, and we can look for a Copilot. You can do that. And you will see that we get GitHub Copilot, which is API that Visual Studio Code gives to these extensions. Now, some of the startups, like Cursor, for instance, said more control over the whole UI. We would like to way deeper embed AI into the whole coding experience. And that is why companies like Cursor decided to not go for an extension of Visual Studio Code, but fork Visual Studio Code, and then build everything around AI within their fork of Visual Studio Code. So when I show you Cursor, you're really seeing the open source core of Visual Studio Code forked and changed and tailored towards advanced AI capabilities. And Cursor is the only tool in that direction. Maybe some of you have heard about Codium. Any Codium users here in the room? Yeah, also 1, 2, 3, 4. This is Codium here. You see, it's also an extension. But what Codium did in the last few months, they also forked Visual Studio Code. So now, this is Windsurf. Windsurf is the fork of Visual Studio Code provided by Codium. Why did they do it? Because of exactly the same reason. They said being locked into an extension is not good enough for the kind of AI support that we would like to provide to our development users. And therefore, they forked Visual Studio Code and created Windsurf. So the development from 10,000 feet, that development goes in this direction that in the past, we had AI assistants like GitHub Copilot, where you as a developer decided for the AI tool, and you could use it on different IDEs. If you are a JetBrains user, use it on JetBrains. If you are a VS Code user, use it on VS Code. If you are a Visual Studio user, use it on Visual Studio. GitHub Copilot is available everywhere. With these new kind of tools like Cursor or Windsurf, you decide also for the IDE. You have to go with the Cursor IDE or with the Windsurf IDE. And there you have the full power of AI. We will see how this works out over the course of the next months and years, but it is like this as of today. So I already asked you who is currently, let me quickly go here. Yeah, who is currently using GitHub Copilot? And most of you production demo of GitHub Copilot, right? You know code completion, you know chat and things like that. Things have changed, and I will show you that. But I would like to focus the beginning of my talk to Cursor and what Cursor can do. And then we'll see what GitHub Copilot can do. Again, this is definitely not GitHub Copilot bashing. Absolutely not. I love the product. I think it's great. And whenever I have to work with it, I really, really like it. In fact, when I do .NET development, in most cases, I have both IDEs open. I do coding in Cursor, debugging in Visual Studio Code, and commenting in Visual Studio Code, because GitHub Copilot is better when writing comments than Cursor. Strange times, isn't it? goes into a strange, it throws a strange tantrum. It says system runtime compiler services. It had nothing to do with system.NET compiler services. And at the end, the system says, okay, I will create something like this, whatever this is. It took something from the compiler services. I have no idea what this is. This is simply wrong. It is I addition operators. Note the S. So you see, you will not lose your job anytime soon. So the AI is not very smart. Now I can accept this thing, and if I remove this thing, now it's called I addition operators. You see, it's system numeric, and you see, it worked like a charm. Well, we can use this new operator, this new constructor thingy here. But you see, what I wanted to show to you is, as .NET developers, this thing is pretty good. This agent is pretty good. It did its very best to come up with a solution, but it couldn't figure it out completely. So these tools are great, and we will continue using them for the remaining time, but they are not perfect. They are by far not perfect. Cursor is not perfect. Windsurf is not perfect. GitHub Copilot is not perfect. They are not perfect, by far not. So they make professional programmers more productive, but they don't make amateurs to professional programmers. No way. So it worked. It worked pretty well. Let's go to the next step, and let's take a look who answered our questions. The point is, here with Cursor, we can choose which model we want. And I don't know if you recognized, for the whole time, I was not talking to GPT-4o. I was talking to Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And to be honest, this is my favorite coding buddy. Over the last few months, I have learned to love Claude. Claude works great. I love Claude, and whenever I generate code inside of my Visual Studio or Cursor or Windsurf, I use Claude. With Cursor, I am no longer limited to OpenAI as my AI provider. On the contrary, as a developer, I would like to use the model that works best for my use case. In the past, you have chosen GitHub Copilot, and you had a kind of marriage with OpenAI. Because Microsoft owns GitHub, Microsoft is invested in OpenAI, GitHub Copilot was OpenAI. Then came Cursor, then came Windsurf, then came Codium, and guess what? Nowadays, there is a preview, and this preview allows us to use Claude in GitHub Copilot too. So the competition forced Microsoft to include non-Microsoft-oriented AIs into GitHub Copilot. I love that. If you would like to try Claude in your Visual Studio Code, in your GitHub Copilot, please remember that you have to turn it on. So if you're working in a larger enterprise and you wonder why you do not have this option here, go to your GitHub administrator and tell them to turn on Claude. But I have bad news for you. Microsoft does not offer the same level of SLAs and security guidelines for Claude than they do for OpenAI, because Claude runs in Anthropic. Anthropic is the provider of Claude. And you know where Claude runs? In AWS. So when you use Claude, your code goes through Azure to AWS and back to your development environment. So this is not a solution for everybody. Especially in large companies, I see the compliance programs struggle a little bit with the newest developments in the area of AI coding assistants, because so far they just wrap their head around the fact that the code is transferred into the cloud to Microsoft. Okay, maybe these enterprises have a good relationship to GitHub, they have a good relationship to Microsoft, and the compliance department said, okay, let's accept that. But now things changed immediately again. Now we do not just have Azure and OpenAI, we now have Claude. And Claude is provided by Anthropic, and Anthropic runs in Azure. The world is getting more complicated. This is a challenge for enterprises. It's easier for small companies like ours. For us, it's perfectly fine. For the projects we do, nobody cares about the code that we write. In 9 out of 10 situations, the code that we write is a little bit of UI, read some data from a database, write some data in a database, build a bunch of, I don't know, GraphQL, open REST APIs or whatever. This is what we do. It's nothing that is so critical. So it's perfectly fine for us. But in larger companies, this might be a challenge for the future, that these large companies accept that there are a lot of different providers for AI models that are very useful. And sometimes we have to rather quickly choose between the maximum development productivity and compliance. In large companies, that's really a challenge. So you see, with tools like Cursor, GitHub Copilot changed. And that's the next development in GitHub Copilot. This thing is now model independent. Of course, with tools like Cursor, you can go a lot of steps further. So if I go to the preferences here and I say, give me the Cursor settings, you will see that we have here in the modals way more options. You see, I could turn on the Google modals if you want. They have proprietary modals like Cursor Fast and Cursor Small. You can choose between additional Claude modals. You can even provide your own API keys so that Cursor will use your API key when going to when querying, for instance, OpenAI or Google or Anthropic, because maybe with your API key you have larger quotas for the really big models like GPT-01. Okay, so here you have way more control of what's going to happen. But don't get a wrong impression. Just because you specify the API key here in Cursor does not mean that you directly talk to the AI provider. It means, I'll tell you a secret, and you will probably not sleep very well if I tell you this secret. They transfer this key to their own data center. They store this key. They now have your API key, and then they will use this key on the server side. And that is something that many people are not familiar with. Cursor is a rather relatively small startup company, and you are giving them your precious API keys. Do you want that? That is the question that you have to answer. And only you can answer it. Okay? It gives you flexibility, but you need a lot of trust. Good. Now let's see what we can additionally do here. Let's ask the composer for a few more things so you see what this thing is capable of doing. Now we have a direction here. Let's do it in the code completion. I think that is an interesting one. Here you see the AI assistant did a mistake. You see that one? It used lowercase for records, and that is not idiomatic.net. In idiomatic.net, we should change that one to an uppercase D. That is what we want, okay? And of course, I have to change it here too. So, fine. This is good. Now I would like to add a little bit of extra code here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want to have all 4 directions. So public, static, read-only, and let's call it direction left. Okay, looks good. Tab. And what you see here now is the tabbing through code changes. What Cursor introduced is the idea that when Cursor provides you a suggestion, the system immediately behind the scenes, like a chess player, is thinking about its next move. It immediately starts thinking about, if Rainer will suggest this suggestion, what might be the next thing that he wants to do? Let's propose it to him without him doing anything. I do not need to press enter. I just wrote left. I accepted the suggestion, and Cursor immediately said, oh, I get what you mean. I will suggest the next thing. See, I do not need to do anything. Just press tab. Nice thing. Let me demonstrate that. I need to fix that one, sorry. Let me demonstrate that on a second example, okay? For instance, let's say we create, let's do it in the program CS. Let's create a variable, let's call it distance. Let's call it 5. Let's say var pressure. Let's call it 10. Let's say var weight. Let's do 5. And see what I'm going to do. Let me zoom in a little bit so you see it. Underscore meter. You see what's going to happen? I didn't do anything. That is the idea of active proposal of next steps. It continuously monitors what I do, and it tries to think ahead and say, okay, if you added meter here, I guess you want to add the unit of measure to all the different variables. And I just have to press tab, and it just works. And of course, I mean, that is what GitHub Copilot can do too. If I say console, console, not conditional weak table. If I'm on stage, I'm a horrible typer. Console, exactly, it says write line, of course. But let me show you something else, what I really, really like about Cursor. Write distance. See? You see this one? Suggestion? What Cursor does, it continuously monitors what I type, and it kind of assumes that I always screw up. It says, if you type something, I do not take you literally, but I always think about what could Rainer mean. Rainer, that's me, is sometimes not a good programmer. He makes typing mistakes, he forgets about syntax of things, he doesn't remember correct method names and things like that. With a tool like Cursor, I do not have to think about it. The system simply doesn't take me literally. I simply type approximately what I want, and I rely on the fact that this thing will fix my errors automatically. And it works like a charm, see? So this is a very, very big thing. And you saw it in practice here when I started with the left, right, up, down. I created the left and it immediately suggested things. A few weeks ago, I asked a colleague of mine to try Cursor. And first, she said, I'm not convinced. I love my Visual Studio Code. But then she tried it. And she's my wife. So we are in the home office. She's a professional developer. And my home office is side by side to hers. And once she tried Cursor, I heard every day, multiple times, oh my God, that's scary. That's exactly how it feels sometimes. You make a change and it immediately says, hey, I know what you want. Down there, down there, down there, you want to change these things, tab. Now you change that one, go up, and there you want to change that, tab, 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 tab. Sometimes I think I'm not a programmer anymore. I'm a tab P presser. That comes on my resume, I think. He can press tab very well because that is what I often do with Cursor. And guess what? Do you think that GitHub Copilot will come with similar functionality in the future? Well, if I have to make a guess, I would say, I think they do. What do you think Windsurf does with Codium? They do exactly the same. These models are more and more, they are getting more intelligent as we speak. And they are pretty fast and pretty good with it. Okay, let's again change something. This time we go into the chat. And in the chat window, I'm going to say, okay, give me a static directions array with left, right, etc. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, now I'm not in Composer, I'm in chat, so the system suggests a bunch of code. It says, I think you would like to do something like this. All left, right, up, down. Looks good. Now, I do not want to apply this manually. I do not want to copy this out. I do not want to copy the entire code because then I have to override this entire thingy here. I want to apply the entire thing, and that is what the apply button does. I love the apply button. Apply, boom, yes, done. Did you see how fast that was? Did you see how intelligent that was? In the past, if you have used other AI tools before, what really sometimes ruined my day were situations where the AI said, comment, here comes your existing code, and then something below it. And then I didn't check it, copied it, pasted it. My program was screwed because I simply removed a bunch of code because the AI thought that's fine, just saying, here comes your existing code. The apply button that you see here, this apply button is AI apply. And this is also something which came, I think, a few months ago to GitHub Copilot. So if you do the same thing here in GitHub Copilot, let's go here. No, this one, position, here it is. Add parameterless CTOR to direction with default 0, 0, something like this. GitHub Copilot is awesome. I'm also using Claude 3.5 Sonnet here. It's doing the same thing as Cursor. It shows me something, and guess what? Here is the apply button. I can press the apply button here, but do you see the difference? Did you see the difference? It was pretty fast now. But if you use the apply button in Visual Studio Code with a larger code piece, it happens that you wait for 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds. Did you have this problem in the past? It's kind of annoying to wait for so long if you just want to apply a change. And guess what? They are working heavily in that direction to make GitHub Copilot faster because the competitors are a little bit faster in that area. Applying AI suggestions is important because in the future, we will do that a lot, apply suggestions from an AI. The suggestion is fine. So what we got here is we got a default value. We can accept that or discard it. I will discard it because I don't need it here. And the system here made a mistake because I would like to use a collection expression. We all know what a collection expression is. Okay, next step. Next step, I would like to make sure that everybody leaves this talk with a good feeling in their guts. I would like to add a function. Let's call it getRandom that returns a random direction. Let's see what the system does. I'm in the composer mode. I'm in agent mode. It generates the code. It screws up. It's using system.random. And this is the suggestion that we get. Random.next all.length. Good? Nope. This is something that all AI tools are bad. They don't know about latest developments in the framework, in .NET, in C#. This is old-style .NET. Many of you already know, no, there is a random.shared.getItems method. Use it. Okay, let's see. So my talk was called State-of-the-Art Recent Developments. Well, one thing that didn't change, neither in Copilot, nor in Cursor, nor in Windsurf, is that the AI tools became suddenly more aware of recent developments. We still are needed as developers. It is still our task to know what's going on. I will accept everything, and then we'll take a look. What it does here, yes, it fixed it, but it didn't fix it out of the box. The original suggestion was rather outdated .NET code. I had to tell the system that I want to have it in a certain way. This is why I'm convinced for the upcoming months and years that nobody, no professional programmer has to fear for his or her job. We are still needed. The AI tools are great. They make us productive if we know what we are doing. Okay? So this is something that hasn't changed. Now let me show you some additional things to wrap things up that changed in GitHub Copilot, because I told you that I will also tell you something about new things in GitHub Copilot. Now I demonstrated to you what the, if you ask me, technological leader in this space, Cursor, is doing, and now I would like to show you what GitHub Copilot learned for new tricks. One thing that I forgot to mention, because I'm here at the .NET meetup, I I'm not just programming .NET. I have 4 programming languages, in fact 5 nowadays. I love to write .NET, I love to write TypeScript, I love to write Go, I love to write Rust, and I program in English. Because that is what I nowadays do when I program with assistants. But in a .NET environment, I have to point out that there is one huge disadvantage with Windsurf and Cursor and so on if you do .NET development. Any ideas? Yeah. Not that popular? No debugger. The debugger is not open source. The debugger of .NET is not open source. If you'd like to debug .NET code, no way. You need to have a Microsoft development environment in order to use the debugger of .NET. Or you use a tool like JetBrains. I'm not a JetBrains user, but what I heard, they have implemented their own debugger because the .NET debugger cannot be used in their programs. So that's a drawback. How do you cope with that? Well, don't make mistakes. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, yeah, you make mistakes. Of course, I cope with it by having the .NET solution open in 2 editors. That is what I do. I don't like this state, but this is the reality. I open my code in Cursor, hacking in, using the agent, great experience with Claude, debugging in Visual Studio Code, writing comments and documentation in Visual Studio Code, switching back to Cursor when I have to hack in code. Would I love to stay in one environment? Of course I would, but I can live with that. That's the reality. Now to GitHub Copilot. I already showed you that in GitHub Copilot, you now have this edit mode. You can look it up. You have a bunch of new capabilities here in the attachment things here. Please look it up. Just try it and take a look at it. You have new modals, as you can see here. If you go to the settings, preferences, settings, and let me get rid of that one and go to Copilot and go to here, experimental. You have a bunch of experimental new features. Take a look at it. Some are really interesting. One of the most interesting ones is this one. You can now add custom instructions in files in your project, and these custom instructions will automatically be sent with every chat or editor message that you type in. So in your team, you can, for instance, write an additional instruction and tell the system, okay, we always want to write code in this or that way. We follow this guideline, this style guideline. Avoid this feature. I don't know why, but some people hate var. If you hate var, tell the system to not use var if you don't want to, okay? These are these custom instructions, and you can do them. This is also a feature that became popular through Cursor, and it became so popular that, for instance, in the Cursor world, there is this website which is called cursor.directory, where you have a bunch of languages here, and here you have suggestions from the community about instructions that you can copy, where somebody thought about how do I develop with this AI, and you can copy them, and maybe these instructions are a good fit for you. You can also take these examples from cursor.directory and copy it into Visual Studio Code, but because at the end of the day, it's just an AI. It's also Claude. Yeah? So these instructions are really interesting, and I highly recommend to read through these experimental settings, because maybe you will find something that makes your life a little bit easier. Okay? Good. So let's summarize. First, we didn't finish our snake game. I checked it in. If you would like to see the snake game that I prepared, in fact, I really prepared it. But yeah, 45 minutes are so short. So if you would like to take a look at my snake game, feel free to copy it. It has a lot of code in it. It doesn't matter. The second thing, you've seen that there are new startups in this world, like Cursor, like Windsurf, and they are, from a technology point of view, they are leading the market. From a market presence point of view, GitHub Copilot is by far the largest and best established tool that we currently have. Now, what should you do after this talk? Should you get rid of GitHub Copilot and immediately switch to Cursor and Windsurf? I wouldn't say so. GitHub Copilot is a great tool, especially if you work in an enterprise. If you are working as a freelancer in a rather small company in which it is possible to try out new things, give it a try. This is how I came to Cursor. I tried it many months ago. I loved it, and it became a new tool in my tool belt. Another thing that you can take away from this talk, OpenAI GPT-4o is great, but for coding, Claude is maybe an equally well option, maybe even a better option. And the last thing is, yes, in the future, you will pay more each month for many different AI assistants, but hopefully they make us so productive that it pays off. Thank you very much for listening. I'm more than happy to answer questions or have a little bit of a discussion for the last 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you.
So first of all, I want to say that not necessarily you pay more. If you use multiple tools and you run into a limit, you could just switch the tool and open the same folder. And the second thing, have you tried bolt.new? I mean, the talk was perfect for the .NET community.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I also pay for StackBlitz, so I also pay for bolt.new, and I tried it. We even did more evaluation with V0, but we are mainly an Angular company, not so much a React company. And with both tools, we didn't come to very good results when we use Angular. We use Angular. We still write Sass, SCSS, and things like that. No, we do not use Tailwind. No, we do not use React because we are in this business for quite a while. And bolt.new, V0, in our experience, work great. In the React ecosystem, if you use things like ShadCN and Tailwind and things like that, but if you are more in the enterprise world with Angular and things like that, the results weren't so good that we followed this path. I use it sometimes for small little department apps, tools, but we don't use it on a daily basis. Does that answer your question? Yes. Very good, thank you. If you don't know it, V0, V0, take a look at it. It's amazing, especially if you write React code. It's really good. Also bolt.new. Yes, question.
Thank you for your talk. I have a question regarding the custom instruction. Is it possible to point it to a Jira page where we have documented all our coding guidelines?
No, it's not. It's not. Thank you for asking this question. I forgot to mention something. Something that Cursor can do. I'm not sure if Windsurf can do it. In Cursor, you can see in a prompt tell Cursor to go to the web and Google search something for you. I don't know how they do it. And what's even more important, you can store here certain help pages. They get indexed. So what they do is they do a RAG solution. They put it into a vector database, and then you can ask questions about a document site. For instance, here I'm using a document site from our own product. We have a domain-specific query language, and I could ask a question as, how would the TCQL query for all customers from Austria look like? And this is something where I would, in GitHub Copilot, have to write my own extension. But with Cursor, I can simply point it to a document page. Could be something in Jira. In our case, it's a public website. And it tells me, this is our domain-specific query language. And trust me, it's correct. So this is possible there. But in the instructions, I don't think that you can point it to a Jira page. You can only do that directly here in chat or Composer. I hope that GitHub Copilot will do similar things in the future too, because this is really amazing. I use that very often, very frequently. Does it answer your question? Very good. Any further questions? Yes.
So first, nice talk.
Thank you very much.
Second, it is one comment, and I hope if we can have a counter example.
A what?
So a counter example to what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So most of the instructions or the chat was about very simple directives.
Yep.
I mean, and I can say that 1 year ago with GitHub Copilot, I was able to achieve the same. So what about something complex a little bit?
Something complex. These modals, or let me rephrase it. The complexity that chat and Composer can answer depends heavily on the modal that you use. So typically you use Claude or GPT-4o. Claude and GPT-4o are great for algorithmic problems, for generating boilerplate code, simple code, but also medium complex code. Are you looking for I don't know, a Dijkstra algorithm for shortest path analysis? It's absolutely no problem. Are you looking for some graph analysis algorithm? Do you want to rephrase code so that is no longer recursive but uses a loop and a stack data structures? Things like that works like a charm. That's not trivial. I know I can write that. I've written enough Dijkstras in my life that I know how it works. But at the end of the day, I'm not productive when doing something like this. So on that level, on this algorithmic level, these things are really good. Where these things are really not good is when you ask them to do something where the input is distributed across a large code base. And the system has to take a look at lots of different files and somehow finds a pattern, some abstractions or coding patterns, and follow these coding patterns. But that is not something that these AI tools can do. That is something that the AI models, the large language models, are simply not good at. Because large language model, they need the entire input as part of their context, at their context window. And the only thing for a large language model to answer complex questions based on a large code base is by taking this code base and sending the entire code base in a single context to the LLM, and then the LLM has to come back with an answer. And LLMs are not good for that. So complex in terms of algorithms, these things shine. Complex when it comes to software architecture, software design, large code bases, proprietary code bases that are not available on the public internet. These things do not shine. I would even say they suck. If you created your own, for instance, object relational mapper and your own JavaScript framework, because who didn't? Anybody here in the room who did not invent their own OR mapper or UI framework? Well, if you did that, these things don't know about it and they don't produce great suggestions. However, if you use well-known frameworks, they are really good. Does this answer your question? Does this fit to your own experiences? Yes. Yes. Okay, very good. I leave it up to you if we can take additional questions. Do we have any questions from the audience, from the online audience? Nope. Final one? Anything? Everybody's, yeah. Final one. Very good.
Just because you didn't mention it, do you know anything about JetBrains AI assistant? Is it
comparable? Very good question. JetBrains AI assistant. Answer is no. I haven't used JetBrains at all in my whole life. That does not mean that this is a bad product. On the contrary, I really hear a lot of good things about their line of products. But my day only has 24 hours, just like your day, and I'm doing so many things. I would love to take a look at JetBrains. I would love to take a look at platforms like Kotlin and so on, but I simply didn't have the time. So the answer is no, I can't say anything about it, not because it's bad, but because I simply don't know it. Okay? So thank you again for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Ryan.
Handing it back to you.
Thank you. So quick outro. Let's switch back. Good. So sharing works. Good. Good. Rainer, thank you for being here and giving the talk once more. And as every speaker, also you get a custom
Thank you.
coaster
Thank you very much.
from our logo.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Also, to you all and on stream, thank you for joining. Sorry for the small audio problem on stream, but we fixed it. We hopefully didn't lose too much. Yeah, thanks again to our sponsors, Rubicon twice for the location and monetary to be able to run these events, and also JetBrains. And with JetBrains, the raffle, we will do now the raffle. So we have 7 entries. Let's see who is the lucky winner. Yes, I really don't want to butcher that name. So in here, per person or on stream, no, it's on per YouTube at least. So please contact us on this email address, team@.netdevs.at, and we will send you the next day the voucher. And with that, we always want to improve these events. For that, we would like to have your feedback. You find the quick feedback on the small QR code and on the link. That would help us a lot. I'll give you a moment to scan the code. Okay, still people scanning. It's too big. I don't know. I've never scanned this on the big screen. Good. And with that, see you next month at Tech Talk. Bye. Bye, stream.